For 2022, I want to learn how to draw cute anime girls. Let's figure out how to draw and render hair today, shall we? Well, hello there, I'm Détroit. If you don't know me, I have 8 years of experience as a visual artist for big companies like... Wait, no, that's not me, sorry. I'm not a professional, I barely have any experience in drawing. That's the whole point of this channel, learning new things about drawing. If you too want to learn how to draw, follow along and subscribe. I draw abstract stuff with ink in the Thursday videos, and I draw digitally in Sunday videos. Anyway, you read the title. The goal for today is to understand better how to draw anime hair. This is why I'm making a girl hair template on which I can put hair later and work that out. I don't have time to spend 100 hours on it right now, since I have to make 2 videos per week, so I can't promise it will be perfect by the end of the video, but I'm sure I will improve. Stay for the whole video in order to see that. Most tutorials you see on internet are made by people who are already really good at it. Which makes sense in a way, but they also tend to forget some things that beginners like me can have trouble with. All the best drawing tutorials I've seen are from people with around the same ability as me. It makes it more accessible and you can learn one step at a time instead of being overwhelmed by the gap between you and the expert showing you how to draw. In any case, the heads are ready. It's time to dress them. For the first hairstyle to get started, I'm thinking of short hair, like a bob cut. Let me tell you what I'm thinking about as I sketch. One thing is for certain, to draw hair you can't draw individual strands. It would be too hard and too messy, straight up impossible. Instead, you have to think about chunks that are either falling straight-ish or twisting like a paper ribbon. You also have to think about the origin of the hair. That's the location of the vortex at the top of the cranium, because that will give the orientation of the main chunks, at least for the side hair. The front part of the hairstyle, the bangs, will start from the very top of the forehead, which is why you can see the lines oriented from the middle towards the outside as it goes down. To mix up the main chunk shapes, cut into it like you would a bit of paper, sort of with a lambda shape. Like a V but not symmetric, that's more pleasing to the eye. Lastly, from what I'm learning as I draw, there are the other bits, the few strands that go out and that makes diversity. There's the tiny swoop at the top above the vortex and a few random strands here and there to break the main shape. Don't add too many of them though, just like the lambda cuts. Keep it spare, it looks better. The sketch isn't perfect. Again, I'm in the process of learning, but I'm happy enough with it to move on to the second hairstyle. This time I want long hair. I want a more messy hairstyle because the bob cut was more organized and I think easier because of it. Let me tell you, here the bangs are way messier. Looking back on it, it's not the greatest look, but it's another good study. I already explained the main way to approach hair, so I won't delve deeper on this one. Let's start the third sketch and then we'll begin the rendering part of the video. The third hairstyle I'm looking for is twin pigtails. Because of the orientation of the head template, I get to draw only one, but I'm pretty sure that's enough for a study. You're already getting 3 drawings in one video, don't get greedy now, alright? What this hairstyle also involves, besides the pigtails, are longer strands contouring the face and shorter and slimmer bangs. All in all, with the 3 different hairstyles, I think I'm covering a lot of different hair parts. And then, when I keep practicing off camera, I can know better which is easier and which needs a lot more work. At this point in the drawing process, it felt weird to think about rendering the hair while the whole thing was just a sketch, so I decided to add some skin tones. Just a 5 minutes rendering of each head to have a base color to start with. For some reason, I also wanted to leave the sketchy lines at first and not do any line art, but after a short break, I went back on my decision. What I'm gonna do is clean up the lines for each head as I'm about to render the hair. It's a bit all over the place, but I'll make it real fast in the edit. I did leave the faces as sketches though, because it's not my main focus here and I don't feel like doing it quite simply. It's finally time to start the first render, the pink bob cut. Now, I don't have too many things to say about each drawing separately, so I'll let the 3 renders roll and talk over them all as one. The first thing I'm doing is choosing colors. I'm making a gradient color swatch because I think it looks good. To be honest, I don't know how many colors I need, or how many I'll use, but at least I have something clear and limited to use rather than using the infinite number of colors available on Photoshop. One thing I've noticed is that the hair is always shaded in a few different parts that are always the same. The top of the head, the bottom, and also around the middle a bit. By making big curves around the head, it also gives a 3D feeling because it's spherical. Then, with a small brush, you go in and extend parts of the shading to make a zigzag shape and give the impression of small strands within the big chunks, while not drawing them individually. I think overall that's the main aspect to remember. Stay big, do not zoom in and get too detailed. For the Bobcut, I'm figuring out a bit what I need in terms of brush opacity and the size of the shaded area. I'm using a brush that has hard edges, and so the shaded parts are a bit too thick and too well defined. For the long hair, I use the brush too soft and the edges are not defined enough. It's hard to find the right balance, but by playing around with the size of a soft brush, you can make shapes that are fuzzy enough to be somewhat natural and defined enough to not be too messy. I am also figuring out how to use a darker color to emphasize the edges and playing simultaneously with the opacity of the layer. One thing to consider is of course the lighting. Here, the light is really diffused, but it doesn't stop some areas from being darker no matter what. The underside of the hair, for example, the part towards the head, will be darker no matter the haircut, because the lights come from outside, obviously. You can play with multiple layers to darken these parts and where two large chunks of hair overlap. If you don't give it enough contrast, it will look like the long hair one on the right, a bit too flat to look nice. Something I learned while rendering the blue-haired girl is that when you're a beginner like me, don't try to make difficult shapes at first. The pigtails were a bit too much for me to handle right now, as the hair around the knot is pulled in all the directions and I have no idea how to make it work with the rest of the bangs. Even though the hairstyle is much harder, the overall render was more satisfying to me. I think I nailed the shading of the round part of the hair a bit better than in the other two, which is good. It means I'm improving. This is exactly why I made 3 heads and did them in succession. Each time it gave me the opportunity to work on something more, but also refine what I learned previously. Of course, it's not perfect and I don't expect it to be by the next time I draw a head, but I won't rush it. This is a study and I wanted to show you how I work on a specific topic, like anime hair. Using repetition, I'm slowly chipping away at the big obstacle, refining my technique over time. I'm going to continue working on it off camera and you will be able to see my results over time on my Instagram at d3_sd, which is linked in the description. This video also serves as a milestone for me to compare my skills at any time to what they were previously. I'm not gonna make 1,000 videos on the progress I'm making with hair rendering alone. I want more diversity. Which brings me to my next point. Something you can see in these drawings is that I did not render the eyes at all. Drawing eyes is almost as hard as hair for me, and I think this will be a good topic for our next tutorial/study session. Maybe not next week, but soon. Another good reason to subscribe to the Detroit Variety channel. In the meantime, I encourage you to tell me what you thought of this video in the comments, be it good or bad, as well as leave a drawing suggestion. Oh, and click like of course, that's the thumbs up button. As for me, I'll see you in a few days for a nice ink drawing, and in a week for more digital adventures. Love ya, bye!